come after us and we'll hang bodies up at noon in town as a warning, as a demonstration of who is in charge here.
The family of this fallen soldier now become the latest members of that sad list. Proof that Mexico's horrific and ongoing drug war is far from over.
Today's actions could be a violent show of power by the Sinaloa cartel faction led by El Chapo's son.
Cartel war is not new in Mexico. The nation wakes up to a new story of cartel violence every day. Many have lost their lives because of these wars. Some of these victims were directly involved in the clashes, while some were caught in the crossfire and had no ties with any of the cartels. Many times, the war stemmed from one cartel attacking family members of the other cartel. Revenge killings have taken the lives of thousands of people, and sometimes these incidents drag on for months. So why do these cartels begin these wars? Why do they attack the family members who might not even have any relation with the cartel operations? Stay tuned, because in this video, we'll tell you how cartel lords and commanders react and take advantage when dangerous enemies attack their family members. Edgar Guzman Lopez. Edgar Guzman Lopez was the eldest son of Joaquin Guzman, commonly known as El Chapo. Joaquin ran the biggest narcotics cartel in Mexico, the Sinaloa cartel. He was arrested in 2016 and was extradited to the US in 2019. Born in 1986, Edgar was the chosen successor of El Chapo, but unfortunately, he was gunned down in May 2008 by members of a rival cartel. After his arrest, the remaining sons of El Chapo, Ivan Archibaldo Guzman Salazar, Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar, Ovidio Guzman Lopez, and Joaquin Guzman Lopez, took control of the Sinaloa cartel.
Sons of the world's most notorious drug lord, the U.S. Justice Department says the so-called Chapitos took control of the Mexican Sinaloa drug cartel when their father El Chapo landed in prison.
They took their father's legacy forward by introducing new narcotics to their trade.
From there, U.S. officials now say the four sons only amplified El Chapo's brutality and used their force to fast-track an international network for a lab-created poison disguised in drugs.
The sons of El Chapo are known as Los Chapitos. They have always had a bad reputation for capturing and tormenting their victims. And when it came to someone who betrayed them or attacked a family member, they would ensure that the enemy received the highest level of pain before leaving this world.
In Mexico, they fed their enemies alive to tigers, electrocuted them, waterboarded them, and shot them at close range with a .50 caliber machine gun.
So how did the son of such a powerful narco lord get gunned down? It's believed that El Chapo was collaborating with the DEA and Mexican law enforcement. He agreed to give up information about top narco lords and help authorities catch them. In exchange, he asked for immunity for himself, his family, and his crew members. As per the information provided by El Chapo, authorities captured Alfredo Beltran Leyva, one of the leaders of the Beltran Leyva organization. At the same time, they captured 11 more leaders and commanders of the same cartel. This was a major blow for the Beltran Leyva organization. No one had any concrete proof that El Chapo was behind these arrests. But the Beltran Leyva members knew that El Chapo had an ongoing issue with Alfredo, and he knew where he was hiding. Keeping the mass arrest in mind, the members of the Beltran Leyva clan declared war against the Sinaloa cartel. Naturally, the next chapter of the war between the Sinaloa cartel and the Beltran Leyva organization was to take out El Chapo's eldest son, Edgar Guzman Lopez. By 2008, Edgar showed promise in the narcotics business and wanted to do his own trade. However, he lacked the proper hands-on training and wasn't very street smart. El Chapo was receiving threats from the Beltran Leyva cartel because of their enmity, and he warned his son not to leave Mexico. But Edgar didn't listen to him. He set out to Chicago with his cousin, Cesar Herrera Guzman, to sell their first narcotics base. After they sold it successfully, they started for their home. They were riding in an SUV and stopped on the way to buy a few necessities. As they walked out of the car, armed men opened fire at Edgar and Cesar, fatally wounding them. They lost their lives on the spot.
El 10 de mayo del 2008 fue asesinado Edgar Guzmán López, hijo de Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán. El crimen se cometió en un estacionamiento del supermercado City Market en el desarrollo urbano Tres Ríos de Culiacán. ¿Por qué lo recordamos? Porque hoy...
Local witnesses said that at least 500 bullets were fired to ensure that the Los Chapitos wouldn't make it out alive. The Beltran-Leyva organization never admitted that they were behind the attack. Instead, they claimed that El Chapo's own men had mistaken Edgar for someone else and accidentally killed the Chapito. El Chapo attempted to take revenge for the death of his beloved son, but it never made up for his loss. Consuelo Lera. It's not just El Chapo's son whose life has been threatened. His mother, Consuelo Lera, also came under attack by rival cartels. El Chapo revered his mother because of her determination to raise him despite all odds. She lived in a small town called La Tuna. It falls in the Golden Triangle region of Chihuahua, Sinaloa, and Durango. This area is heavily controlled by the Sinaloa cartel and cannot be accessed by rival gangs. The cartel grows opium there. El Chapo believed that keeping his mother there would be the safest option, but he was proven wrong when a rival cartel attacked his mother in that area. Herrera is a soft-spoken, gentle woman. In interviews, she always speaks about her son affectionately. She dearly remembers the early days of her little Chapo.
Me acuerdo que venían muchos billetitos de 50, que de 5, que en no sé en qué cosa. Y él juntaba y hacía los macitos y los amarraba.
But Loretta probably never imagined that her son would grow up to have a country full of enemies who would try to harm her. In June 2016, around 150 sicarios invaded the small town of La Tuna. They made their way into Loretta's house. Fortunately, she wasn't home at the time. The invaders ransacked the place, cut telephone lines, and stole cars and motorbikes. It was later revealed that these men belonged to the Beltran-Leyva organization, and El Chapo's mother was lucky that she wasn't home on that day. Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar, another member of the Guzman clan whose life was threatened by a rival cartel, is Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar, a Chapito, and the brother of the late Edgar Guzman Lopez. Screenshots from security camera footage released in August 2018 showed Alfredo hanging out with his friends in a high-end restaurant in Puerto Vallarta. A few moments later, armed men captured them and had them on their knees, and just like that, Alfredo and 5 of his friends were abducted.
The surveillance images show the attack was brazen. Monday morning around 1 a.m. in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, screenshots show Jesus Alfredo Guzman sitting at a table with friends. Moments later, he's abducted by men armed with long guns.
The incident took place after the arrest of his father, El Chapo, in 2016. Some of the leadership roles had come to Alfredo, but it was reported that he wasn't taking it seriously. This incident was proof that he always had his guard down, which led to his abduction. The screenshots appeared on a blog called El Blog del Narco Oficial, a website dedicated to narco updates.
How the website obtained the photos is unclear, but on Wednesday, the Jalisco State Attorney General said they were authentic.
Lucky for the Chapito, he was released 1 week later, unharmed. AFP said that an unnamed member of the cartel leader's family confirmed the release of Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar, 29, and 5 others who were kidnapped last week. They were negotiating all this time, but now are free and well, the source said, adding that the men already returned to their homes in Sinaloa. Authorities believed that the CJNG, or Jalisco New Generation Cartel, was behind the kidnapping, as they wanted to take advantage of El Chapo being in prison. They feared the possibility of a full-fledged war between the two cartels after the news was out, but thankfully, the involvement of the CJNG in the kidnapping wasn't confirmed. Eduardo N. Apart from rival gangs, Mexican cartels also consider law enforcement authorities as their sworn enemies. Whenever the authorities orchestrated a mission to capture them and were close to becoming successful, cartel members would act violently. As a result, they would be forced to back off. In 2019, police captured El Chapo's son, Ovidio Guzman, from Culiacan. His cartel members lit the streets on fire. They raised roadblocks, burned vehicles, and fired at law enforcement officers. They continued to attack anyone they came across in the streets.
Cartel foot soldiers set up roadblocks and waged war on the police as they tried to free their boss.
The law enforcement lost control of the incident, fearing for the safety of the civilians. They had to release Guzman immediately.
Back in 2019, an attempt to arrest Guzman was thwarted when cartel soldiers wreaked havoc and destruction in Culiacan. Authorities released him to stop the violence.
But even after freeing the Chapito, the cartel members didn't forget to take revenge. An officer named Eduardo N, who was in the squad that arrested Guzman, lost his life in November 2019, only a week after Guzman's arrest and immediate release. Security camera footage showed Eduardo arriving in the parking lot of a shopping mall in Sinaloa in a white car. A red car followed him and parked right beside his parking spot. Two men wearing black came out of the red car. They reached the officer and began firing at him. They fired 150 rounds in only a few seconds. After that, they quickly climbed back into their car and drove away. Police investigation later linked Eduardo to the arrest of Ovidio Guzman and concluded that this was a revenge taken by the Sinaloa cartel members. However, in 2023, Mexican police ran another successful operation in Culiacan and captured Ovidio Guzman. The members of the Sinaloa cartel repeated their actions. They created roadblocks and burned down any vehicle they found on the streets. The clash between the cartel members and law enforcement left many people dead from both parties.
The clashes have left 10 members of the security forces and 19 from the cartel dead.
As the authorities were taking Guzman away to New Mexico, the cartel members fired at the airplane carrying him in an attempt to free him.
Officials say cartel members fired at an Air Force plane carrying Ovidio Guzman, known as El Bebe, to Mexico City.
But the authorities didn't back down from their duties this time. Guzman was successfully extradited to the U.S., where he awaits his fate. Melid Angulo Córdoba. In December 2009, a raid against one of the most notorious cartel kings, Arturo Beltran Leyva, ended in a battle. Several lives were lost, including the kingpin and a Marine officer named Melid Angulo. The officer was hailed as a national hero and laid to rest.
It was a state funeral for a man hailed as a national hero in Mexico's drug war, Marine Melid Angulo Córdoba, who died in a daring raid last week that also took the life of perhaps the country's most powerful drug kingpin, Arturo Beltran Leyva.
His family was present during the burial, and they were pictured mourning their son. The cartel members took notice. Only a few hours after the burial, unidentified gunmen arrived at Angulo's house and attacked his family members.
At least a dozen hitmen executed Cordova's mother, brother, sister, and aunt, storming into their home, spraying their living room and bedroom with bullets.
The cartel members didn't spare anyone inside the house. The neighbors saw the event unfold in front of their eyes, but they didn't dare intervene for fear of being attacked. Irma Córdoba, 55, who hours earlier had received the flag draping her son's coffin, died from a single bullet. Josefa Angulo, 46, the Marine's aunt, was shot at least 10 times. His brother, Benito Angulo, 28, and sister, Holiday Angulo, 22, also died. Another sister, Meralde Angulo, 24, was gravely wounded. While the government of Mexico had anticipated some sort of retaliation from the Beltran Leyva cartel, they hadn't imagined that the members would do something like this. The government had celebrated the successful raid against one of the biggest cartels in Mexico, but the news of Angulo's family being attacked created a major setback. It was also a clear message from the cartel that even though their kingpin had been eliminated, the cartel was still running strong and was capable of carrying out operations as usual. Juan Francisco El Brujo Herrera. Juan Herrera worked for the Sinaloa cartel. He was gunned down with his family in June 2020 while in his vehicle.
Un grupo de sicarios ejecutó a Juan Francisco Herrera Ortiz alias El Brujo, de 34 años, del Cartel de Sinaloa, junto a su esposa Nayel CP de 29 años y su hija de 10 años de edad, en el Boulevard Josefina Borboa.
He was traveling with his family in an SUV when armed men intercepted him and opened fire. Herrera took a hit and lost control of the vehicle. He crashed it into a traffic light post. The rival cartel members continued to fire at them and wounded everyone inside the van. Juan and his 10-year-old daughter immediately succumbed to their injuries. His wife and the other daughter were taken to the hospital, where the authorities announced them as deceased. The SUV also had other passengers and they were severely wounded, but they survived the attack. It's speculated that the Caborca cartel members took their lives as revenge. They were one of the oldest allies of the Sinaloa cartel and helped with their operations. Their leader, Rafael Caro Quintero, was one of the founding members of the Guadalajara cartel, which later disintegrated. He also had a cordial relationship with El Chapo. As mentioned before, after El Chapo was arrested and extradited to the US, his sons took over the cartel operations. Due to the change in leadership in the Sinaloa cartel, there was a fallout between them and Quintero. But up to this point, the Sinaloa cartel and the Caborca cartel were fighting against the CJNG, or Jalisco New Generation cartel. The brawl between them grew over time, resulting in the death of Quintero's nephew, Santiago Eduardo, by the Sinaloa cartel members. Enraged by the betrayal, Quintero decided to take revenge. As a result, he ordered his men to remove Juan Herrera from the Sinaloa cartel. Unfortunately, the narco commander's family had to pay the price for his deeds. But how serious was the death of Santiago Eduardo? Why had it driven Quintero to eliminate an entire family and solidify their enmity with the Sinaloa cartel? Santiago Eduardo. Santiago Eduardo was the son of Genaro Payan, the brother of Rafael Caro Quintero. The two brothers were active leaders of the Caborca cartel and traded hard narcotics, such as methamphetamine. Although Santiago wasn't involved in cartel operations, he had many enemies because of his father's reputation. This made him an easy target for other cartel members. He attended a party in 2015 and was hanging out with his friends at a bar. At midnight, unnamed gunmen stormed the place and opened fire. Santiago escaped, but the gunmen chased him down and fired at him multiple times. The bullets hit the window of his car and created fatal wounds. He was immediately taken to the hospital, where he passed away the following morning. The incident pushed Quintero to order the removal of top Sinaloa cartel members, and with time, the rift between the two cartels only became worse. Julio Cesar Carrillo Leva. Julio Cesar Carrillo Leva was a key figure in the Juarez cartel. He met a tragic end in the ongoing conflicts between rival cartels in Mexico. Born in 1970, Carrillo Leva belonged to a family that was deeply involved in narcotics trafficking. His father was the infamous Amado Carrillo Fuentes, one of the notable leaders of the Juarez cartel. He was often referred to as the Lord of the Skies, or El Señor de los Cielos, due to his widespread use of airplanes to transport narcotics. After his father died in July 1997, Cesar and his brother began operating the Juarez cartel. The group was initially aligned with the Sinaloa cartel. However, tensions between the two cartels grew in the late 2000s due to internal disputes and suspicions of betrayal. They went into a direct clash to gain dominance of El Paso, a border plaza. Cesar's brother, Vicente Carrillo Leva, was arrested in April 2009. This left the narcotics trade on Cesar alone, but he wasn't as adept in the trades as his brother or father, and soon became the target of law enforcement agencies. He also lost control of the border plaza to the Sinaloa cartel. Despite trying to maintain a low profile, his name came out in 2011 as the leader of the Juarez cartel. In 2018, he was arrested by the Mexican Navy, but as their cartel had control of the Mexican government, he was immediately released. But this time, Cesar used his power to negotiate for his brother, and he was released from prison in 2018. In August 2020, Cesar was gunned down in Novalato, Sinaloa. A car was seen stationed outside his house for many hours. As Cesar drove outside of his garage, he was immediately attacked, which resulted in fatal wounds. He passed away from injuries as he waited for the paramedics to arrive. It was speculated that Los Chapitos, the sons of the Sinaloa cartel kingpin El Chapo, had ordered him to be gunned down. Every cartel finds many rivals as they begin operating. They also have to fight law enforcement agencies for sustenance. Sometimes the rivalries get out of hand, and the cartels have to resort to removing their opponents to protect their trade and territories. Many of these cartels recruit their family members into their trade. When it comes down to their life, These cartel lords will do anything and everything in their power to protect them. And sometimes it means taking the lives of the families of the other cartel. While many of these actions stem from vengeance, they don't really solve any problems. Instead, it only deepens the battle. Thousands of people lose their lives due to cartel wars every month. And from what it seems, these wars are far from a ceasefire. What did you think about the cartel families and how they protected themselves? Do you believe that they did the right thing by taking such brutal actions against their enemies? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.